Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. He's been almost invisible from the public eye since suffering a mini-stroke a year ago. He's been too sick to campaign, and his critics say he's physically and mentally unfit to govern. But none of that is likely to stand in the way of Algeria's long-standing leader, the 77-year-old Abdelaziz Bouteflika, as he seeks re-election to a controversial fourth term in this week's presidential election. Now, outsiders are not alone in dismissing this election as a farce, a masquerade. Many Algerians, especially those among the growing generation under the age of 30, also consider the whole thing a mockery of the democratic process. But in a country still scarred by the trauma of a civil war in which up to 200,000 died, Bouteflika is also seen by many as the best guarantor of peace and stability, at least for now. With me today to discuss a little bit of the election is someone who knows Algeria very well, was born in Algeria, Mansoura Mokhfi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You have several titles, and they're both equally important. You're the special advisor, first of all, on the Middle East and North Africa, Maghreb region, at the French Institute for International Studies, IFRI. You're also a visiting fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, and at both you follow Algeria very closely. I want to begin by showing you and our viewers a couple of cartoons by a famous Algerian satirist. His name's Dillam. I know you know him. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the first one. There it is, Bouteflika in a wheelchair on his way to a fourth term. Next one, by the same cartoonist. And this one shows his campaign team. I see you sort of smiling there. Okay, his health has been a giant issue. They say this is a man who just got over a stroke. He was recently shown with John Kerry, meeting with him. It seemed like he was barely able to talk. Is he fit to govern?
Let's start with the beginning, where you mentioned in your introduction that he suffered a mini stroke. I think that the stroke was quite serious because let me remind you that he was flown to Paris, which means that his stroke could not be dealt with in Algeria itself, and he stayed out of the country here in France in the French hospital for many months. So I think that the stroke was quite important. It was a severe problem. But beside this, he seems to have been recovering despite all the fuss that is being made around his health. Yes, this president is in a frail condition. Physically, he is not as mobile as he used to be. He is more important than anything else, 77-year-old. But mentally, psychologically, we don't have precise clues about his condition. When you mentioned that he welcomed Secretary Kerry, we saw him moving painfully, but addressing the most important issues of the dialogue he wanted to have with the Secretary of State.
Mansoura, he was lucid, okay? His mind was perhaps there. But it is true he has not left, essentially, his palace for any campaigning. He has not campaigned at all. And yet most people say he's going to win. They're going to vote. Who is going to vote for him? Who?
It's true he's been invisible, as you said. He didn't address the nation once. He never appeared at any of the rallies, the meetings that have been held by his team, namely the former Prime Minister and the Chief of Staff. Nevertheless, his presence is very heavily felt in Algeria. We have no real assessment of his popularity. There are no polls. We don't know exactly. But when you talk to people, when you see either how they are drawn to him or withdrawn from this whole campaign, you understand, you get a good feeling of the attachment that the Algerians have for him. So who is going to vote for him? Those who are still very grateful to this man because they considered, and this has been played out during the campaign very strategically, we must say, as the man who saved them from terrorism, who restored peace to the country, who promised stability and delivered it. who even prevented the country from having its own Arab Spring.
I just want to, and I want to make it clear to our viewers, what you're referring to is back in 1992, an Islamist party won the elections. Those elections were canceled, and subsequently we had a bloody civil war in Algeria in which over 100,000 people died. So that's still very much a traumatic, it's a scar for many people in Algeria.
Yeah, we had terrible crisis that took place, lasted 10 years with the military-backed government fighting its own Islamists. I want to make this precision because civil war, people were not in the street fighting. It was not people against people. It was the military-backed government against the Islamists.
Cracking down, almost wiping them out.
And and winning, and bringing them to the table and offering them la concorde civile. And we are now at the final stage of this process, since the only and serious opponent to Bouteflika, Mr. Benflis, is offering an extension of that process.
This is what I was going to ask you next. We've only been talking about one man so far. Yet there are 6 candidates running in this election, 5 besides Bouteflika, and the man you just mentioned, Ali Benflis, he is a rival. Is he a serious rival? Does he have any chance of winning?
Yes, observers, analysts are seeing some possibilities for him, but these remain very slim, very minor, because he has against him a whole system which, despite the many divisions that we heard during this campaign, and this is quite a novelty in Algeria, despite the dissent voices that have been expressed all over the spectrum, expressing doubt, expressing shame, expressing embarrassment about this Bouteflika candidacy, Benflis has gathered some momentum during the past weeks, doesn't guarantee his success or his election.
It's a 2-round election, I will also remind our viewers. So there'll be a second round.
So far, Algeria never had a second round.
Okay, but
so maybe it will be a premiere. We don't know for the moment. But what I would like to stress also is that for the reason also people will vote for Bouteflika or not bother to go voting, it's because voting against Bouteflika is not a guarantee of change.
That's
and the major issue today in contemporary Algeria is what change? This change that some people are really asking for, hoping for, and that nobody seems to be addressing or delivering.
One issue we have not addressed also is the fact there is a very large and growing young population in Algeria, under 30 years old. A lot of these people think Bouteflika is a joke, and there's a big movement, right? You could tell us about it, Barakat, which means enough in Algerian. Why aren't they're not even allowed to protest, from what I understand.
They are not allowed to protest, but they did protest. And those protests, those demonstrations show also how limited their popularity is.
But they represent a giant number of young Algerians. They're
not
totally
Barakat itself, if I may disagree, not Barakat itself. The disappointment, the exasperation against Bouteflika, yes, it's widespread among the youth you mentioned. Yes, and the youth under 30, they are 75% of Algeria.
75%.
Under 30, 75%. But Barakat is the emblem of a new form of opposition, une opposition citoyenne.
A citizen's opposition,
yes.
Grassroots.
Exactly. Grassroots, no, because it's a quite elitist movement that has some representation in Algiers and in 2 or 3 other main cities. It's spreading a little bit, but it started very late because it was created after it was sure that Bouteflika will be a candidate.
Okay.
That's what triggered, sparked this protest, but it doesn't represent the
It doesn't
grassroots.
represent the
No.
broad masses of young people.
No.
I want to end though with this question here. If Bouteflika is elected, unemployment, a giant issue in Algeria right now, the economy, a very big issue. Despite all that oil and gas, the economy is not doing well. Doesn't Algeria need a strong leader? A strong leader right now.
Well, it's what some segments of the population are asking for. Just because there is no real civil society, no counterpower, no opposition, no real opposition.
No credible
So
opposition.
they consider, yes, that Algeria facing today so many threats, so many challenges, because this campaign didn't address them. Yes, you mentioned the economic problems, the youth, the unemployment, but there are other threats, the stability, the terrorism, the remains of the terrorism inside the country, the insecurity at the borders, the problems that has been created after the Arab Spring in the whole region, and in which Algeria is a major player because it's the most important regional player. All these issues are challenges for whoever will come out of this election.
And I'm going to have to end it there, Mansouri Mogheffi. Yes, whoever will come out, and a lot of people will tell you that whoever is going to be Abdelaziz Bouteflika, 15-year president, going for a fourth term in this week's Algerian elections. We've been talking about what next for the country. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to all of you for watching the interview here on France 24.